Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the Economic Development Tourism Event Management meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest? None? Can I get an approval of our agenda? Okay. Approval of our minutes from November 23rd. Moved by Jason. Terry, second. All those in favor? You good, your worship?
Oh yeah, no, go.
Perfect. Any business arising out of our minutes? Gosh, you guys are great today. Okay, we're going to move right into discussions and reports, and we'll start with the event management update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few updates. If I don't touch on something you're wanting to hear about, hop in. I'm just going to give you some high-level updates here. Event attraction prospecting is flat out for us. We're involved in a number of files within this specific area. We have a lot of marketing campaigns underway, and the relaunch of the bidding season has commenced a couple of months ago. We've have several bids to market. We know that we have upwards of 3 successful bids right now that we've won, that we've put out the door, so announcements are pending on those in the coming weeks ahead by the property right owner, and the city will be very much a part of those announcements. As reported at the last meeting in November, the Jack Frost Winter Fest can't happen in its current format, so we've been working with all of our partners at Capital City Events Inc. with respect to creating a winter celebration that would replace that this year, that would be COVID friendly and very much involving CPHO as a part of that process. So there will be an unveiling in the near future of a month-long celebration, which will run from February 12th until February the 14th. It'll be 4.5 weeks, I guess, if you look at those dates. But it'll ramp up every weekend, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It'll ramp up on those weekends with a number of celebrations. It could be outdoor activities, musical events, comedy events, culinary events. There's a variety of things that will be very engaging to the public, and let's knock hard that the Atlantic bubble returns for some of that, so we can bring some visitors into the province. You heard us talk in the past about the Sport Tourism Canada Recovery Task Force, which was a national piece of recovery work that was completed that Laurel and I sat on. There's a report called Bouncing Back. The committee has received a copy of that in the past. We're now working with a consultant, GM Events Inc., who's been very much involved in the city file in the past from a sport tourism perspective. So we're creating a recovery plan for the next 12 months. It's imperative that we do that if we want to continue to have good relations with other levels of government, as well as the national sport organizations, because some things have changed, but it's very much business as usual. We just need to adapt with that changing curve until we get back 100% to some normalcy. So essentially, we will continue to work over that. It'll be unraveled probably by mid-February, and we will bring it back to the committee's information sharing when it's completed at that time.
Thank you.
We're continuing to work with Event Atlantic. I don't want to be repetitive here, but just a reminder, the City of Charlottetown is a founding partner of Event Atlantic. So we very much played a leadership role with respect to submitting an application to ACOA for funding that will allow for for an Atlantic strategy to be done for the recovery of the event industry and moving forward over the next 5 years or so. So we're on the eve of receiving ACOA funding. We've been at this for 3 or 4 months now. You may have heard us talk about it in the past, but the ink is almost ready to be to paper. So we're happy about that. Our team is involved with a couple of upcoming events over the next couple of months that would normally happen in person. There still may be a hybrid of one in the Halifax area. We'll know in another few weeks what happens with respect to the Atlantic bubble, but that's Sport Tourism Canada Congress will be coming up, which is a huge event for us. This year will play a more significant role than ever because we have to be creative as a small destination to ensure that we remain a vibrant sport tourism market. And then Atlantic Presenters Association has shift change, which is typically based out of the Halifax area. There'll be a virtual component for sure, but they're hoping to do a bit of a hybrid if the bubble ever reopened. I'm involved now with YYG Charlottetown Airport's recovery as well. They've engaged a consultant through Intravistas. Work is commenced, I'm going to say, in late November, early December. There was one group meeting already of the team, which is made up of the province, COA, other tourism partners, Tai Discover Charlottetown, etc. And the goal is to have a report out by spring sometime to determine the path forward for the airport. We continue to work with Canada Games on a regular basis. The only reason I have it in my notes today is that we are entrenched in discussions with them for the cultural celebration for Charlottetown. It's not fully taken off yet, but there's preliminary discussions being had. As everyone knows, the Games is provincial, but Charlottetown will kind of be the main hub of the athletes' village being here, so we will serve as the largest cultural celebration in the province, and there's going to be some really unique and fun things to happen there. There'll be a whole engagement of the cultural community as well, but the city plays a very important role in that process. Our team recently met with the environment and sustainability staff to update the ICSP with respect to economic development, tourism, and event management. That's a regular occurrence annually, usually in the month of January, February, to try to tick off goals and milestones and objectives that are met. And we had a lot of good concrete advancements, although we faced challenges with COVID, but we made some good gains as well in that area. And then the last two things I would say is I'm currently involved, maybe Peter will report further here, but the competition is currently underway for the Economic Development Officer, which is one of our key staff for this committee. And we're in the midst of our budget process, which will come back here to the committee before it's moved on to the Finance Committee.
Good. Lots of good things. I'm excited about the Jack Frost. That'll be exciting. Any other questions for Wayne?
I have none.
You can.
Just on the economic development officer, when do you expect to forward something?
I would say, Your Worship, so there's the next round of interviews is coming up. I would say that the competition would be completed within the next week to 10 days or so. And then I believe if the file will be turned over to our HR department and Mr. Kelly's office to determine the hiring process from the results of the competition.
So 3-5 weeks?
Yeah, I would say, without having all the details, I would say that a goal would be to have the individual in place probably by early March.
Or before, right now they're going through the testing.
Correct.
This is phase 2. After that's done, they'll hopefully narrow the scope, come up with 1 or 2 preferred, and then it will move forward to HR. They would do their reference checks and other things that done, and then go forward for
Yeah.
recognition.
And it's just a follow-up, Madam Chair. Last week, we had the meeting with GCC, DCI. I think it was Wayne Dolan said, the economic development officer's position, we want it filled, like we want to see it filled so we can start working in collaboration. Remember that?
Yeah, so it's nice to
Yeah,
kind of
so
have a timeline.
I think it's
early
fair to say no
information.
matter who the successful candidate is, they'll need about a 4-week period to transition to this.
Absolutely.
unit.
Get in place. Perfect, thank you. Tourism culture update.
So as we've mentioned at this committee level before, since COVID struck, Charlotte and I have really been operating in much more of a team capacity with Wayne than we maybe previously would have been. So I'm not going to go through any of the items that he's already covered off, but I will say that in particular with the Ice City file, our bidding files, any of the sport tourism marketing asset and the recovery action plan, as well as the Canada Games file, we are just as deeply entrenched in that as Wayne currently would be. You would have seen a couple of announcements go out recently. So our department has been working with the Public Works Department to transition the city's holiday lights, which were a big hit this year, to winter lights. So you'll see that transition taking place over the course of this month. We've been trying to leave things up as long as we can because there's still a ton of people that are out taking photos. So to capitalize on that, we've also added 2 activities to the fold related to that Winter Lights initiative. So earlier this week, we announced a Winter Lights photo challenge. It's going to run through the end of February. So we're asking people to take pictures of the lights in the downtown and hashtag Winter Lights Charlottetown. we'll go through and pick a weekly winner that will get a local prize package, and then out of those 6 weekly winners, we'll select kind of the grand prize winner that will get, again, a local prize package. In tandem with that, we're also running a Winter Wonderland home decorating contest. So this could be your home, it can be your front yard. We're encouraging people to get creative with lighting, with snow construction, if it decides that it's going to snow, and other winter decor with the intent that we would announce the winner on Islander Day as part of our programming on that day. I have had the opportunity in kind of focusing on winter and winter life in Charlottetown. As you would have heard through presentations with Discover Charlottetown and through my reports in the past, we really have been putting a strong effort forward to try to establish Charlottetown as a winter tourism destination, as well as a strong summer and fall tourism destination. So Discover Charlottetown was fortunate this year to get some NACOA funding to establish an ignition fund that was targeted to for-profit businesses in Charlottetown. A lot of the nonprofits are eligible for a lot of federal or provincial funding programs, but it tends to exclude the for-profit businesses. So they were able to submit applications to the Ignition Fund for infrastructure or events and activities that are going to help further establish Charlottetown as a winter tourism destination. So I was able to participate on the evaluation committee for that earlier this week, and it's not our announcement to make, so I won't get into too many details, but in the coming weeks, watch for Discover Charlottetown's announcement of those projects that will be moving forward. There was a lot of really great applications, and at the end of the day, we were able to push about $75,000 out the door to those projects combined. So it's a good investment, and you'll see a lot of really interesting things popping up between now and the end of March. Speaking of Islander Day, we have commenced the process of putting some programming into place for the city's Islander Day celebrations. The last 2 years, we have partnered with Jack Frost to offer free entry for city residents on Islander Day. Obviously, with Jack Frost not happening in its traditional format, we've pivoted a bit, so we'll be going back to the format where the city provides programming through other operators and through city resources as well for residents to take part in over the Islander Day weekend. I will let the committee know we're probably about 75% of the way there for pinning down exact programming, so the committee will get electronic communication to let you know what the programming looks like before it goes out to the public. Canada Day funding applications for next year have been filed with the federal government. We're hearing through our contacts at the province that we will be in a better position for gatherings by next summer. We still likely won't be back to a regular celebration, but we won't be quite as limited, fingers crossed, as we have been over the last months. We have let the federal government know that it is not our intention to proceed with a solely virtual celebration this year, regardless of what restrictions may look like. At the very least, we would be looking at some type of hybrid activity where there's in-person and maybe also a virtual component. On the culture side of things, the Arts Advisory Board is in the final stages of putting together their report on the Imagine Charlottetown project. So Doug and I have been working with them on that. The final draft is supposed to be available at their meeting next week, and then once it's signed off by that committee, it'll come forward to this committee and to council as a whole. And as Wayne mentioned, he's taking part in the Economic Development Officer competition. I've been taking part in the Senior Communications Officer competition. We did think that we had a ringer of a candidate before Christmas, but unfortunately, for some personal reasons, the individual was not able to accept the position. So I'm hearing from HR that we've got some good candidates again for the second part of the competition. So I anticipate that those interviews will be getting underway as soon as they get through the positions that they're interviewing for currently. And we also, in tourism, have commenced our operational budget process, so that'll come forward before it goes to finance next month. That's all.
That's great. Wow. Any questions for Laurel?
No, pretty straightforward.
Great reports, guys. Thank you. Very detailed.
Busy bunch.
You're good. On to tourism accommodation levy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a report in your package with respect to this particular item, and it's being recommended that the committee we endorsed the amendments from both Discover Charlottetown Meetings, Conventions, PEI, and then re-forward on the council for endorsement. We already did this once, and the process was pretty straightforward. The one thing that we did discover during the process that there was a bit of a gap, so the representatives on the SURF committee, which communicate back to those organizations, may have not communicated directly with the executive directors of each of the organizations, which is a fair and valid point. So they reviewed the document that council had originally passed and requested a couple of minor amendments. They're in the red in here. So the first one is simply replacing municipality with city, which is pretty much straightforward. We also added a secondary line to where the city leads the attraction of signature events inclusive of sport and tourism. We also indicated that the city would work with the above noted partners as required and acknowledges their contribution to the event sector, which is a fair request. 2.7 and 2.8, they just asked for additional changing to wording here. The city representatives who sit on both of these boards is very much active working boards, so it's very specific to a professional area, meaning that you need to have background in that area, etc. So two things here. They're asking for to be, although it's been event staff or tourism staff for many years, they're asking it to actually be included within this document. And the other item is we had proposed to meetings and conventions, PEI, that the city position possibly become a voting position on their organization because they were provincial in scope, and the current representative from Summerside happens to be a staff person at the city of Summerside. So the committee decided that they would up that for a consideration. Because of the way that the board operates and due to bylaws and others, they're asking us to maintain the status quo, which essentially doesn't impact our commitment to the organization. And we certainly don't have an issue with it, but Peter and I have had discussions about it briefly as well. So there would be two changes there. And there's just one more, item 4.6, where in the future we don't run into this situation of having the document come back where we indicated that the process would involve the executive directors of both of the organizations that are mentioned. So for the most part, open to questions, the most part they're housekeeping, and it's a pretty straightforward partnership regarding the tourism accommodation levy, which is industry funding.
I'm just going to clarify, so for 2.7, the tour event management staff, so do we have anyone that sits on that? Is that?
Yep, we do. So the tourism officer of the day sits currently on Discover Charlottetown, and the events development officer sits on meetings and conventions, PEI.
And which is Councillor Yankoff also on the downtown Charlottetown board?
Yeah,
What-
that's separate from these.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with this.
Okay, no, I was just trying
Yeah,
to
no.
understand that.
Yeah,
That's
we're-
great.
Discover Downtown Charlottetown Inc. is very much a governance board. Right, it's
Yeah.
VIA,
Okay.
where these ones are more working boards, like working
Perfect.
committees that's work in specific spaces.
Awesome.
So, Madam Chair, under 2.1, if you look at collection of town and all accommodation operators inclusive of B&Bs, inns, Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then it says pending development. Is that the pending development of an adoption of a STR bylaw or?
That's
latter
correct.
two?
That's correct, yeah.
And is that what we were trying to do last year?
Yeah, so this is all ready to go, but as you know, the platform providers will not engage in the collection until such a time the city develops and adopts the short-term rental bylaw.
And we had to put that on hold because of COVID.
Yeah, it's on hold right now.
And that's after the public engagement.
Correct.
Exactly, yeah. That's why we use the wording in here pending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes, absolutely.
2.7, Wayne, so you don't feel uncomfortable with that, with us not being a voting member?
Yeah, the only one, counselor that was related to us being a boarding member was 2.8 to meetings and conventions. I don't see, sorry, the sun's right in my, it's okay.
Please?
I don't have any concerns with that. We've had a good relationship and rapport going through this. The previous members of this committee talked about possibly exploring that opportunity because their mandate is provincial in nature. But the one thing is that at least 70% of meeting and convention activity happens in the capital city because of infrastructure and because of having a beautiful convention center in Waterville.
Yeah.
So it doesn't impact us. If this was city taxpayer money,
Right.
then I would be saying, yes,
Yeah.
we need a vote. But the funding that flows with this MOU is industry funding. It's the tax that's collected at the hotels, the accommodation providers.
So one more, Madam Chair,
Absolutely.
please. So just to follow up on that, so there's no commitment here as far as operations or any sort from the city? This
No.
is strictly just on the tax?
Yeah, right, it's strictly, this is more to say that we still agree that the way that it's working very well, we've had great gains. It's just to, every 3 years it comes up for renewal, and, you know, this structure is the envy of many other destinations.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else good?
So we would need a motion of the committee for us
Oh.
to advance this back on to, correct?
Council.
Mr. Belling, yeah.
Councillor
I'll move.
McLeod moves. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Cody seconds. All those in favor, good? Everybody's good? Good. Great committee. We're on to the event support form. I think Wayne had said that it was formalizing what was
Yes, so
discussed.
Madam Chair, back in our last meeting in November, staff had mentioned the development of a new form which would help us further attract our contributions, commitments, and really a Bible for events in many ways. So this would be an electronic form that would be maintained by staff in our department, but shared with all departments. So at any given time, if the CAO or an elected official said, you know, what did we do for this event, and when is it we can go in and pull this immediately and provide this detailed information. We do have that information now, but it's a bit scattered because we put the responsibility on the departments to collect and submit to us like quarterly or at the year end. And we really have to push them, not picking on departments, but we have to push them to get the information. And this is valuable information when we have financial request discussions, budget times, etc. And it also validates the value of commitment that the municipality has given to the event sector in our city.
It's very clear. Good.
No, this is great.
Bite-sized form.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, we're still massaging it a little bit. It's 99% there, but it will be maintained electronically. And
Do we
just
need
want
to bring
show
that to council as well?
What's that? No, it's just information sharing.
Just perfect, okay.
Great.
It's more of an operational
Yeah,
piece.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good organization.
It is good. It'd be great for, you're right, being able to provide reports or have quick access to
Right.
answer information.
Right.
Any other questions for Wayne on the event form? Okay. So now we're going to talk about the correspondence we've been receiving with, from the Indigenous groups that we've been working with, Lunaway and Mi'kmaq Confederacy, as well as the Native Council. I think Doug is going to join
I
us.
just sent him a note, let him know
Perfect.
already.
So, you know, we're here again to discuss, and I guess I'm just going to say, I kind of tried today to go through everything that's been brought to date as the committee switched over halfway, and to provide a roadmap for us to kind of be clear on our focus. So I'm just going to say, if you'd allow me the time to kind of go through what I understand where we've been. If you guys have questions, you can just write them down, and we'll have an opportunity certainly to discuss anything that we think we need to discuss. So we have received correspondence from the three groups that we've met with. And I think we need to discuss how to refocus and best respond to the emails that we have received, so that, you know, we're all on the same page about where we've been and where we're going. So kind of to recap, on June 25th, we had a council resolution passed. And, you know, the resolution at that time says that the city council endorses the statute of Sir John A. Macdonald remain in place. And further, that the city bring the, oh dear, Peter, you're writing, you look like my doctor, appropriate stakeholders together to determine best steps forward. So to recognize the full story be told, and in particular involve the Native Council, the Mi'kmaq Confederacy, as well as Nunaway, to ensure direct input to bring resolve. Okay, so that was the council, the resolution that we passed. So as per direction of the resolution, on July 14th, the previous chair and the subcommittee met with two of the Indigenous groups, Nunaway and the Mi'kmaq Confederacy. And from this meeting, as I went through the notes in the minutes, it appears that an expectation was created during this first consultation with the two groups, which stepped beyond the boundaries of the resolution that was passed by council. Although if I look at bring the appropriate stakeholders together to determine the best steps forward, so to recognize that the full story be told, to me it's still not overly clear that it was just to rewrite a plaque, there's, personally. So I can see how maybe at that initial meeting, it was derailed a little bit because I think the wording could have been a little clearer in that, although we did come back and get clarification. So best steps forward could be, it could have been interpreted, in my opinion, more than a plaque rewrite. And I think this is how we started to get off track, based on the minutes that I've read. So I wasn't in the first meeting, I'm just trying to put the story together based on that. But as a result of the bigger discussion, according to the minutes from the first meeting, staff was directed to develop a terms of reference. In the minutes, it states that all parties agreed that over the next month, work would be done in creating a terms of reference to help guide the group's efforts moving forward to work toward a mutually beneficial outcome. Staff from all organizations will connect in the coming weeks with respect to creating a draft terms of reference that would be brought back to the group in August for further discussion. Those are the minutes. Again, that was not the intention for council, as we have since learned. So there was back and forth between Lunaway, Mi'kmaq Confederacy with changes to their minutes from this initial meeting too. So the representatives were clarifying that their original direction was to assist in a larger education and reconciliation plan, not to be involved in ongoing engagement process. So I think, again, another example of unclear communication at that point of purpose. October 14th, the letter we received from Lunaway, they were trying to clarify that there was conflicting information circulating and wanted to clarify their position. And we've all seen that letter, and this is where they reiterated that the city would keep John A., and they were offering us suggestions how we may tell the full story of Canada's history and the role of John A. Macdonald and the role other people played. And the committee changed. On October 28th, I took over as the new chair in the committee. We met with the PEI Native Council in here. And I did attempt to stay on focus on the resolution because I did go back and get re-clarification about what I was supposed to be meeting for. Although, I'd say John A. stays, so where to from here? And the suggestions from the other two groups were shared at that meeting with PEI Native Council. It was apparent that there would have to be work within the three groups to get on the same page, as we saw in that initial meeting. I don't know if you were at that initial
No, I
meeting. I
missed
think
that
you were
meeting.
out.
Yeah.
But we did have a lot of, recommendations that were coming in from the two first groups that were met, and then this group said, no, it was, for an example, the baby or the child statue. So they weren't clear on their own recommendations at that point. So, we were all kind of trying to come at it from a little bit of a different perspective. So one thing that the three groups did agree on at that time was that the plaque did need to be rewritten. They did say that, and that the photo op, they had recommended that we consider temporary signage or something to remove the possibility of the photo op. So as you recall, we did discuss that in our November meeting here to add the temporary signage. The committee at that time opted to defer this discussion until the terms of reference was established. So we're still kind of in mucky waters a little bit because terms of reference is still being cited at that point. So again, further discussion from the John A. Macdonald statue was initiated in this meeting around how to better collaborate and move forward in reconciliation, which you can see in the minutes. It's acknowledged that these are important discussions, but these meetings were not the place to have these discussions as per council's direction. So we're at a point now where we need to kind of be more open and transparent and honest with the groups that we have been meeting with, in that the council has been given one direction, which was John A. Macdonald stays and we write the plaque. I think everybody was clear on that. I know that we have requested representation from the three groups, as per correspondence, the Native Council is really the group right now, the only group willing to participate in this exercise presently. We know, based on the clarification provided by council, that council's interest in this present process is to solely focus on the resolution. At this point, we may need to acknowledge that we may have unintentionally misled the organizations as to the purpose of what their initial engagement was. And I know, Mayor, you've been leading kind of correspondence with letters and stuff. The question is, like, when we respond to the correspondence we've received, is the mayor as our spokesperson, do we apologize for this misunderstanding? We are respectful of their group desire to work towards reconciliation. However, this exercise is beyond the perimeters of what the City of Charlottetown and the terms of reference of this particular committee. I understand that the province is in the process of establishing a working group that will focus on the reconciliation efforts. So this, this may be the fit that we're looking at, if it's agreed upon by council, for the city to participate in this working group. Have we received any, Doug, update? Is that an actual moving forward working group?
Yes, it is.
Okay, hang on to that thought because you can speak to it. So I think for us today, the questions to be determined is how do we want to respond in correspondence to the emails we've received? Are we interested as a committee right now to look at any of the other recommendations that were put forward by the groups at this committee level with the potential to bring those recommendations to council? Are there things we feel we need to bring to council, or do we wait and see where this working group goes as a collaborative effort between the province and the city? And are we able to be included in that group if so desired by us as council? So those are that's kind of what I've tried to take and summarize myself based on putting things I haven't been involved with things I have been involved with. So now I'm just kind of looking for some direction from our committee and have some discussion.
So Madam Chair, if it's your intent to alter council's motion, you need to go back to council first, before you even seek to meet with individuals. In other words, if council's not open to doing other things, you may give them false hope, and
well, that's what I'm trying to deter on, actually. Thank you. And it's more like, do we
you go back to council to see if they're open to doing anything else other than what they asked us to do, which is to sondage with their input. And if they don't participate, then obviously we have to do something else in some form.
Okay.
But if they're open to do other things, then at least it gives you the latitude to have those discussions. If they're not, then again, if you can go ahead and have those discussions, you maybe give them false hope.
Okay. So we don't even talk about it at committee level?
Well,
just-
no, here you can.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is
I just want to say
direction.
something,
I don't,
if you don't mind.
no? Go ahead.
Province House Historic District Framework Plan. That's the group that's made
Trying
up
to
of
narrow it down.
CADC, Parks Canada, Confederation Center, Fathom, Fathom, is it Fathom? Fathom Studios at Halifax.
Correct.
And the Legislative Senate. That's the group. They met on December 22nd, 2020. Joanne Holden sent me the email of who was involved. Fathom was represented by Rob LeBlanc, Devin Siegel, all the reps around the table. So, and I think, Deputy, we heard today from the Confederation Center, Steve Bellamy, that they're working with this group to build a
Structure.
no, it's not, it's a interpretive landscape.
Interpretive land.
Okay, so there'll be one inside and outside. And it will not be just about the fathers of Confederation. It will be about Indigenous participation, Indigenous life during that time. It will involve many, a number of multiple levels.
Okay.
So, and Joanne Holden is reaching out to us to say, we'd like to be part of it. So there is a meeting on the 24th. She's invited me just to participate through Google Meet to see where we're going with it. And as Councillor McLeod knows, this issue is, I think, we're going in different directions. I spoke this morning to Dr. Ed McDonald. Dr. Ed referred to several scholars in the field of Sir Johnny, and these scholars have written extensive histories of Sir Johnny. Richard Wen, who has passed away, so we can't refer to him. But there is Mr. Jim Miller. He's at the University of Saskatchewan. He's a professor emeritus in the history department. His focus was on residential schools, and he's someone that we refer to for the plaque, for the story. Or we want to maybe go with also Christopher Moore. But Dr. Ed said, look, I will look into some scholars that have written the full story. I'll get back to you and submit it to you that you can forward it on the committee. So I think we're working on different fronts, and I think it does respect, Councillor McLeod, the intent of the resolution that was passed in July last year is that we want to tell the story, but I think we're moving towards something much grander with the Confederation Center, Great George Street. There's a lot going on, and I think I want to be part of that because I think the Parks Canada, the government of Canada, want to tell the full story of the birthplace of Confederation, what took place back in 1864 and how we moved on from there as a nation. So, living in one of the greatest nations in the world, this federal government is really working hard to tell the whole story. And I think we're all on the same page. We want to tell that story too. But I think respecting history is not just at a local level, it's provincial and national.
We did say with the resolution that we were going to retell the story, and we did invite them to participate in that. And we did get one group that wants to be a part of that piece. So I think we have to make sure that we follow through with what our committee has agreed to do, which is work with. So
Well,
Madam Chair, if I may,
if I can just finish.
Oh, sure.
Councillor,
Sorry.
that's the intent, yes. Oh, no, we're not saying it'll just be one scholar or a couple of scholars. People will collaboratively work together, just like the Province House Historic District Task Force. They're working together to tell the whole story. They're also looking at the mothers of Confederation, the women, the contribution by women at that time. So there's a broader story that we're all working on, and I'm excited by it, that we're just coming in at the right time. Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam Chair. No, I was just going to say that in conversations past, I agree with what you had said, and that was give it time, and this is why I think the groups involved here today are not the ones that should write the story. We need to rely on the experts that the mayor just brought up, and I think we need to be patient. I think we need to, we're going to do this, let's do it right. I guess that's my biggest
on the bigger scale, I agree. I
Yeah.
100% agree with that. I just think we need to respond to provide clarity. That's my thought, and
Well, I think what we're saying here today should be probably summarized, and if you feel like it's
and that's why kind of Doug's here. He's been helping with the correspondence
and,
between the three groups.
This isn't just about what any one group wants. This is about getting the story right and getting it done. And there's some good people out there that we should be relying on to, and especially with this committee meeting now, take part in that and get the whole story told, just not on one side, but all sides, and make sure that everybody's happy with it.
And Madam Chair,
Just-
I'm just going to the initial meeting.
Yeah.
If we have to go through CAC to put someone on
Yeah.
that group that they want us, I welcome
Yeah.
the idea of someone from the City Hall participating in that
That'd be
group and making sure that our collaboration with Onaway,
Yeah.
the Mi'kmaq Confederacy, Native Council Prince Edward Island, we're all part of making this story a full story.
Well, that would move probably more out of economic tourism development to more of a strategic priority working group
Very well.
anyway, if you're looking at governmental. Like right now, we're working on the art piece of John A. MacDonald and what the resolution said we were going to do, which is to retell the story. And I'd love some input here, Laurel, because you've kind of been there through the journey of it all.
I think to drill down, I think what the chair is asking for at this time is that through the process of trying to address the one item in the resolution, there has been many more recommendations brought forward from the three groups that we engaged with on how we can, at the piece of art, tell the story outside of just updating the plaque. It could be an addition, it could be taking away the photo op. There are many more ways to kind of address reconciliation through that particular piece of art. And I think the direction that we're all looking for at this point in time is, does this committee have any interest in advancing those recommendations to council outside of the resolution for consideration? Or are we only wanting to deal with the resolution, go back to the three organizations and say, we've received your recommendations, council is not currently given directive to move outside of the plaque revision. We'll keep these recommendations on file should there be a time in the future that we wish to do a more extensive revision to that particular piece of art, whether it's relocating or adding to it. But we've just kind of, what was brought forward when we met with the Native Council, and I think would be a sentiment shared by the other two organizations as well, is that the whole duty to consult process, council had made a decision before the consultation took place, and they have a bit of an issue with that they felt that council should have maybe consulted with the three organizations, gotten feedback on how they felt the statue could be dealt with while it was maintained in the location, and then made a decision on how they wanted to proceed. So we're just trying to clarify for everyone and not mislead any of these groups about what the intent is. Like, do we want to have those recommendations outside of the revision, or do we want to halt those kind of extended conversations, focus only on having them engage with a scholar and to rewrite the plaque for review by council before it's installed, and then kind of deal with the much larger issue of reconciliation, whether it's through a provincial group, or deal with the statue separately through the group that the mayor just referenced that's dealing with the larger Province House District project.
My preference, if you don't mind if I start there, Councilor, it's just, let's continue working collaboratively with the three Indigenous groups, work with the Province House Historic Framework Task Force, look at the broader picture. Like, as Councilor McLeod said earlier, we're moving into, it wasn't just a decision made in July and then we moved on after that. I knew it was going to be a process, and I'm willing to be part of that process for however long it takes. Because this is not only important to us locally, this is a national issue that the federal government with the provincial government, and we could be part of that, look at the bigger picture, the bigger conclusion to what we want to present. And I think this is why I want to be part of what I want to see go forward. And I think
To me, then that moves on to a different committee, because the only thing that our committee,
Yeah, but that's what Laurel is asking, is
Right.
where do we
so the
go?
resolution is about the art piece, which is what,
I just want to finish, but that's what I'm looking at,
Yeah.
Laurel. You know what I'm saying?
So for the Province House project,
That
that
was-
would still only, it would still be isolated to, does that statue become part of the overall project? So that would still fall to the terms
Yes.
of reference of this committee.
Right.
If we're talking about larger issues of reconciliation that are unrelated to the statute, that does not fall to the terms of reference of this committee. It would go back to strategic priorities to determine if that is
Yeah.
something that council is wanting to be involved in. But I think the group that the chair has referenced earlier at the province is separate from what you are referencing. We did receive, before our senior comms officer left, there was some type of correspondence received, whether it was a phone call, an email. I'm not in possession of it. It was something that was verbally communicated around the time that the meeting with the Native Council took place, that out of a recommendation from a provincial report, there was a recommendation made that they strike their own working group for a larger reconciliation, kind of like responding to the federal report that came out at a provincial level. And I believe that there was some type of request made that if we're not doing something at a municipal level, would we want to participate at a provincial level, or would we just want to receive their information? So that was something that we wanted to maybe look into a bit further, that we could address with these three groups, that the direction for this committee has been to deal with the statute. The larger issues would not be held to the terms of reference of this committee, and
Right.
it may be best to partner with the province so everyone's working in tandem.
that's, thank you. Just trying to refocus and clarify that, that's it.
I'm good.
So are we gonna respond to, are you confident in a response draft based
So
on this
are we going to respond
conversation?
to say that the resolution has given this, council has given directive to first and foremost rewrite the plaque?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then also we would probably have to go back to council to get directive on whether they want to be a part of this larger process with
But that's only,
provinces.
right now, it's only at the discovery phase.
Yeah,
There's
so we
no-
could also
Yeah,
indicate in the
maybe,
letter
yeah.
that there may be a larger effort that can go forward with that particular piece as part of this larger project, and that we will be participating in an exploratory process.
And what about the province, they're.
Can mention it separately, that other issues.
So-
We've been trying to get some information about if that working group is set up and if there is a role that we could play with it.
So before you, this is moving in a good direction, but before you commit to working on anything beyond the statute itself, should you not get direction from council before saying we are moving on to the next stages?
I think we
Well,
had
no,
to,
it-
was what I understood.
Yeah.
We can't do
Council
anything.
has agreed to add a plaque to what's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's.
Yeah.
That's right.
the clear direction and it stays. What about what in Mayor's talking about, that may be another opportunity to refine some of the other issues in the province, but also here as well, but.
But Mr. that requires more information, and I think that's what I want to do is reach out for more information.
Yeah.
But we still have to respond to the correspondence that we've
So-
received.
But your worship, the Falcon Studio work that they're conducting, the project you're talking about, which is a good project and possible interpret, et cetera, right? That, although it's very broad, that particular project falls to this committee under economic development and CAC, right?
That's down the road.
Yeah, because CADC is part of this
Correct.
terms of references. Yeah. You know what, I think what Vantham is doing and with the other partners is really exciting. And it's not only interpretive panels outside, but the whole inside
Yeah,
of
it'd be
the
awesome.
restored Province House. It's gonna tell the whole, like, again, I think we just came at the right time with this issue, and we can make it work for all of us, not just for Charlottetown, but for the province, for the region, for the country. And that's, I think it just happened at the right time.
So are we responding to the email at all? Someone will reach out to Bradley, I guess, just,
What's the response, Doug? What do you?
he's willing to collaborate with the story, so.
Waiting for direction as to what the response contained. Yeah.
Right.
I'll wait to get word from Dr. Ed McDonough from University of Prince Edward and ask who we get as someone to work with the NCPEI and move forward.
So are we with, so we're waiting to get someone else to reach out to their identified person through the Native Council?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that what everybody's comfortable with? We're not asking
So
him to write
there's
it?
two responses, correct? So we need to respond to the Native Council's letter where they've expressed interest in
Yes.
contributing to the plaque.
Story
I can
writing.
get my,
Yeah, which we could indicate we have a scholar that's
We're
willing
waiting,
to
yeah.
partner with you to write the proposed wording, because that will still have to go back through council before it's installed. And then with respect to Janine's email from Olney, they have indicated in that email that they just feel like, they put forward recommendations and we've completely ignored them and they don't wish to be a part of the process anymore. So that's the second response that we're wondering, are we responding to that email? Are we letting it cool? Are we responding that, we respect the recommendations that they've made, we're keeping them on file, and we recognize that some of those recommendations would need to be implemented as part of a larger discussion about the entire Province House district, which the exploratory phase is underway. There may be a time in the future where council is able to move forward with some of those recommendations, but we're not currently in a position, based on the direction of council, to be able to do that.
I
We
will-
certainly haven't ignored them, we just haven't been given direction that we're able to move forward with those.
So Madam Chair, when we meet with this group, the Province House Historic District Framework Task Force, I will be asking, will Ownaway, Mi'kmaq Confederacy be part of this collaborative group? And I'm sure they will be, and NCPEI, so I will be asking, and then we can respond that, look, we can all work on this together.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to do is respond to that in those kind of, let Laurel, what you just said, and kind of say that, well, yes, we definitely will take their concerns seriously, and when the mayor does get his chance to speak with that group, that those points of interest could be brought up at the time, so that none of that will get missed in the conversation.
Because at the end of the day, the recommendations that they have brought forward may be more valuable to the art piece if it was incorporated into a larger redevelopment project.
Interpretive.
And you will recall in the meeting with the Native Council, they acknowledged that, if that redevelopment project goes forward, and if council did agree to move the John A. statue closer to Province House within the redevelopment, it may have more relevance the closer it is to Province House. And it would also offer an opportunity to potentially have a larger footprint to incorporate some of those interpretive panels about the full story, or to add a secondary piece to the artwork, whereas where it's currently located, the space is pretty tight.
What you can do there. Yeah.
So,
Did you also find out about this other provincial government entity that was communicated to our previous staff with respect to their...
We are trying to find out. I think Doug was trying to.
I just received a text of where to look for it just a few minutes ago, so I will have info on that very shortly.
Thank you, Doug. So can we give direct, the letter will come signed from you, because
Yes.
that's where the correspondence has been coming from. And we'll respond to the Native Council to indicate that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we're in search of someone that will be reaching out to them to co-write the story. Is that what you have indicated?
Yeah, as I said, I spoke to Dr. Ed this morning.
Yeah.
He was to get back to me this afternoon. He didn't, but
Okay.
hopefully we'll be able to work together. And
I think Laurel has a good response here. I think.
And we'll follow that response to the Lunaway group that we received.
we'll watch it back.
Yes, to the group, to respond to the email that we received on the 14th of January with that kind of message. Is that fair? Is everybody in agreement with that? Deputy Mayor, do you have anything to add?
A good going forward.
It's refocusing too. Again, the piece that we have control over right now is the only direction we have is the plaque
But
piece.
going forward, what the province, the feds are doing, with the Fed Center, CADC,
Right.
it's really, we're in a good spot. And I think the
Feel good
history
with
of the relationship between our fathers and the new government and the indigenous people, it will be part of that story. I think, we can tell a great story.
You'll be a great representative.
And it will be part of and you know what, it'll follow in with the Truth and Reconciliation report that Senator Maurice Sinclair. Yeah, and as you know, he left his Senate position to go back and to work with Indigenous affairs in Manitoba. So,
Can't wait to hear your report.
no,
I'm
but
serious.
seriously, I
I
think
know.
this is a really great opportunity for all of us to work with other big groups. And you look at the names, it's Ron Waite, you have Jennifer Stewart, it's just a great group, I think.
Thank you. Good. So Doug, are you comfortable with your direction? And you'll just share that maybe prior to sending it out to make sure? And the mayor will sign it. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you for great discussion and good input, Laurel. Appreciate it. The last item on our agenda is the quarterly partner meetings. I put this on the agenda. I had received a request from the chamber, and I guess she was speaking on behalf of the chamber as well as Downtown Inc. In the past, there were quarterly meetings where these groups would come in and there would be discussion around kind of the plans, what was happening, from my understanding, and they're really missing that opportunity to come in and share with our committee. Now, I think there was reasons why. It was whether it was
Yeah, in the past, Madam Chair, I'll just
Yeah.
briefly speak. These are conducted quarterly, as you indicated. In the past, they were only done at the staff level. It's probably more beneficial to do them with the entire committee, so everybody can hear and be engaged in the process. You may want to consider, because at times there's confidential information shared by one organization to the city, so you may want to, let's say that you take a Wednesday and 2 hours to do it or something, like, 30 minutes goes to CADC and 30 minutes goes to the chamber and you might consider individually. It creates a more transparent dialogue when it's just you in one group versus you in 5 groups.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only my recommendation to build on what didn't work in the past.
Makes sense.
And I thought that would be a time when you were having people in today that we had to move till the next meeting, but even for our reps that are on the CABC board
They can come,
or
yeah.
you know, the update from the Eastlink Center, because we've ran into trouble before where we didn't know what was going on. I'd like to be able to be briefed on, that's under our committee, so we should be aware of what's happening for any issues or
We're gonna
concerns.
have lots of meetings, because.
Well, I know.
Charlottetown Airport
Yeah, I was
Authority.
gonna say.
Well, I think we talked a 15-minute time span
Yeah,
unless it was,
15.
yeah, not every group will come every week, but you know what? If it's all under our committee and we don't have the information,
I agree.
then it comes back to bite you. So, sorry, and if you don't wanna come, you don't, it's not like you need to have a quorum, would you, for that kind of meeting? It would you? Okay.
I think that you
I think
could
you would.
also ask in advance, so if they have their time slots, they're gonna know what they're reporting to you. I'm just thinking about the airport specifically, like previously at these meetings, they may be discussing infrastructure projects that haven't been announced, they may be discussing additional flights that haven't been
They're public
publicly announced, that they're
announced.
just letting you know that capacity may be increasing, a new route may be added. That's not something you would want done in an open session, but they could notify you in enough time that a closed agenda
Yeah,
could
you can have
be
an open and a
posted
closed,
within the
yeah.
MGA.
Quarterly,
Yeah.
yeah.
So some of those 15-minute sessions, like the first 4 may be done in open session, but there may be 2 that need to be done in closed session, and it would differ quarterly.
So Madam Chair, the 4 groups in the past were CADC, Downtown Charlottetown Inc.,
For Charlottetown.
sorry, 5 groups, I guess. Discover Charlottetown, Port Charlottetown, and the Airport Authority.
Okay.
And today,
The chamber has asked that they be part of
And
that.
the chamber
Yeah, the chamber,
did
yeah.
previously used to be part of
Chamber
this.
asked the chair of finance if they could come in on a quarterly basis. And I
There
said,
you
we
go.
got a chair, economic development, that has opened the doors. So it's
But I
great.
think it's good, and I don't, maybe we don't need to have quarterly with Eastlink Board, but I would like to have updates. I think you sit on that, don't you?
Yeah, but Eastlink Board falls under finance.
Okay, I don't have, well, see, that's where we got into it the last time. It was all under finance, it was this person responsible, and nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
So have fun, you can deal with your own people. Can we set a schedule and put out an
I think
invite
it's-
for these?
Do you also work, we work with the World Bank on this one too?
No, you just worry about your meetings and making
I
sure
think we're
you
going-
communicate really strong, and then we'll be all
We're
good.
in
Well,
United Nations.
okay.
We are important here.
We are.
It's where great things happen. Okay, so could we try to set up a schedule and do that? And we'll just set a separate,
Yeah.
So you want the next
We'll work with
meeting,
So you wanna
the
do-
first quarterly?
Once a quarter, and you want a separate meeting from.
do we
this
want to
meeting.
you guys said that would be better as far as, or,
Ordinarily, they would add, in the past, they had your ordinary meeting, and then they would bring in those folks,
Yeah.
and that's what they used to do.
okay. Well, that makes sense over
No,
here.
because
The
the
issue
committee,
is it
the
can
committee
be-
didn't used to be involved. It was done at the staff level, and occasionally the chair would attend if they were available. So they were completely separate from the regular
Yeah.
meeting schedule.
Let's take them on to the last of our.
Just be aware when you
meeting.
have a lengthy meeting.
And then if you have 2 hours
Right,
of
you could
industry
be, you could be in a very
presentations.
long.
It's only 4 times a year.
Right.
It's only 4 times a year.
No, I don't mind.
I'll just take a Red Bull and good to go.
The CADC wanted to come in, but you delayed them, so they're going to strategic priorities first.
Are they?
Yes.
So
Why-
we probably don't want to do February because we're going to
It's
be,
in the
we need
first
to
one.
have a special meeting for budget.
Yeah, this is,
We can start in March, and we'll just, could you please respond to the partners there to let them know that we've
We'll work
discussed
with-
this?
With Jill and.
So
And
we'll work
that-
with Jill to.
Yeah, and just to let them know that it is gonna be something we're gonna resume, and
Yeah.
that, thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, well, you guys are rock stars. Is there anything else to
no, I
add?
think we're good.
I thought we had a really good meeting.
Okay, just the photo competition, I'm getting there's a lot of great news out there about this.
There sure is.
For the holiday lights.
Yeah.
And, uh,
Winter.
I like, thanks to you guys, it's really taken off. And the photos, are they just downtown or can they be anywhere?
The photos can be anywhere.
Yeah.
But the intent was with all of the nice lights
I
in
know.
downtown, no one's gonna get turned away.
Okay.
Because neighborhoods are last to light up at residential homes and everything.
Yeah,
So,
because anywhere you go in any neighborhood,
Yep.
East Worley, West Worley, Windsor, they're still hanging, they're still
Yeah.
shining brightly. So it's a great idea, it really is. And I think we're gonna be doing this.
Well, and I hate to say COVID brings good things, but some of your stuff that we've done, like, has really sparked a
like Santa
positive.
Claus parades.
That was one. I really think the Jack Frost over a month is gonna be really good.
Well, it's getting people through these emotional times, right?
The scarecrows.
It does.
And the scarecrows, you know, but all of that does bring people out, and that's what, you know, the more people are out, the more people are into spending in our economy.
Your worship, I walked through areas of your neighborhood the other night and I counted 8 Christmas trees up in people's homes.
No, it's unbelievable how many people are keeping the
In their
lights
actual
on,
window, they keep
inside
Christmas
and
tree.
outside. And have we reached out to Holland College Photography if they would?
Well, they have been.
They are
Oh,
out.
You know what we can do is, let's do a motion to adjourn, then you can talk.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's great.
Motion to
But here we
adjourn?
go. We still have quorum.
Let's go. I'll second it.
All those in favor of that, thank you. Thank you very much.